Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Brian if you're new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, well, today, just call me Bill. Yeah, anyway, I'm just joking. It's still Brian, and thanks so much for coming in and checking out today's video. Now, I want to talk about a few things, especially as it relates to the recent Forged in Eternum territory changes and some hints at the upcoming system changes. And that's essentially what this video is going to be about. It's a brief summary. It's also more of my thoughts with what they've kind of expressed, because I don't know about you guys, if you've been following this channel for a while, I hope that you've heard me talk about what I want to see regarding territory changes. But just to keep this simple and sweet and TLDR, for those who might not necessarily be understanding what New World territory system is or understanding how the system functions, let's go ahead and highlight it here on the screen. Right now you can see when you are PvP flagged, or if you go into filters and turn on faction influence, you can see who is controlling what territories, with 3 territories that are locked to basically the AI. These are uncontrollable, uncontested, but everything else can be fought over and claimed. And this has been done through PvP faction missions. Now, the current PvP faction mission setup is pretty basic. You have 3 PvP missions that you can pick from that basically have you go out in the world and are flagged. And the devs have commented on this, and ultimately this really isn't what they're hoping to do. So to kind of highlight the overall goal of what they're attempting to do, we've already seen them change how money is distributed. For controlling a territory, money gets distributed, and there's incentive to upgrade their territory. And so there's been making progressional new word, we'll just go with it, change, and that's set to kind of culminate with these changes that they're kind of teasing in this video sometime in the spring update for the game. But here's what gives me hope. This is what gets me excited, is because they mentioned a few things. And to start off, I'm going to talk about the thing that's more vague in a second, but they talked about the hot zones. Now, I've talked about PvP hot zones in this game, where essentially a way to incentivize whatever you're doing that week. And let's just say, for example, we're going to say Evanscale Reach is the hot zone, meaning there's incentive, there's reason to go there, you can see it on the map, and it would encourage those who are looking for open world PvP to say, if you really want to do open world PvP, this is the zone that you want to do. Now, they didn't say that that's what's happening specifically. They actually said that it's going to be tied into your territory control, into your undermining, into setting it up so that you can actually then instigate a war, and not running one zone per week, but probably like 2 or 3 as a part of some kind of schedule. So it's not necessarily going to be the same time every time. And they say that this might end up incentivizing and giving that kind of respite to defending. You control a territory, you're not going to have to always be on guard and on point. Now, as these schedules and as that ends up working out, we'll have to wait and see. But it sounds like they are basically saying that at any given point in time, maybe 2 to 3 territories will be actually up for that territory standing gain. Thus to say, if you want to PvP, you want to go here, you want to go here, or you want to go here. And I think that's going to be interesting, because that would incentivize people who want to go and do that. Now, I hope it's not just for territory. I hope that perhaps they could also offer some kind of reward for doing so. Like, hey, you did this, and thus, whatever we were going to bestow upon you is going to participate in it. But I really think that's going to be a really good first start. Obviously, we'll have to wait to see how this plays out in practice, because in the end of the day, words are words, actions are going to mean way more. And I think they're making the right actions. It's unfortunately that we just kind of have to wait for all of that, so to speak. So I, for one, will keep you guys up to date on how that kind of evolves and how that rolls out, and what thoughts I have when we get to go hands on with it. I know that then they go and talk about, the forts, right? So like right now there's incentive for controlling the fort. You get various different buffs. You can see the faction bonus that's applied. And honestly, I think that's great. It makes sense. But there's always been this weird problem, especially with the forts, especially when they talk about it a little bit in the video. Okay, like if you're going to control the fort, there is this problem. And so I think what they were kind of hinting at is also additional control points within the zone itself, because controlling the fort always kind of felt like you go and you capture the fort and then you leave, and then they go and just retake it. So it ends up just kind of being like A, B, maybe C. And at the end of the day, like, no one's warring over the fort, especially here at this time. And it could just be the time that I'm filming it, but generally speaking, when I got the PvP mission to go and capture the fort, I would just go sit in the fort, wait, and then leave, and you could end up doing a lot of that solo. And that's really what they're trying to get away from, is removing the sense that there's no point in doing the PvP missions, or there's no point in stopping people from PvPing. And so it seems like that's going to be, I think, a really integrated change. And adding in more control points could be interesting, because they're saying that that actually might really apply to the buffs. So talking about and bringing this all together as one tight package, imagine if, like, you have 2 to 3 zones active, right? Okay, that's where you can, really influence territory gain for this window. Perfect. Well, controlling the forts means that your actions are maybe 10 times more valuable. So clearly controlling the fort means that you're going to have better value, and that's going to end up being more coordinated, more with the faction activity. And I think that's going to be an overall, I think, really nice thing to see in the game itself. So all in all, like, they're starting to seed the ground for something that it could be very interesting. I think open world PvP is one of the most interesting aspects when it comes to these kind of games, but it's also one of the things that can so easily go by the wayside. And so when they call back their Great Cleave, they call back some of the things that they saw a lot of activity in, and it really comes down to incentive, and also that the numbers. You got to put the people in the open world, in the zones, doing those kind of activities, and then letting people know. So as long as visually it's called out in the game, as long as visually when you log in, you're like, oh, here are the 3 zones, and then you could say, hey, is that what we want to do right now? Do we want to go try and help take this zone? And then you could end up having big moments where epic PvP battles, which from a streaming and a content creation side of the coin, also would be pretty awesome and pretty epic to see more open world stuff happening. Because then if you are not interested in PvP at all, well, the good news is you could always just hang out, not flagged, and just watch the chaos for yourself. It is that spectator sport in the game after all. All in all, I thought this was a really good dev update. I'm actually really appreciative of the Forged into Eternum, because I think that it's going to make the bigger dev updates more impactful, because then they can kind of just have these little focus breakout sessions going forward. So I really wasn't sure about where they were going with it once the first and second one hit, but now it honestly feels like a really great way to kind of check in with the devs on a focus topic and go from there. Anyway, guys, just to let you know, we'll keep you up to date on all things New World. I appreciate you guys' time today. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I'll see you in my next one, but until then, take care.